that another layer of smog has yet again engulfed the national capital. But remember, this is not only smog, but what experts are saying that there is element of fog that is also in these visuals that you are seeing on your screens right now.
Viewers, a lot of distractions today, of course. India is playing its semi-final match, but do stay tuned because we're going to focus on a story that ought to be discussed more in an election cycle. Before every election, in fact, it should be the mainstay question, that of job creation, value creation and economic growth. A day ago, Rahul Gandhi claimed that the government's priority project, its flagship project, Make in India, was a hoax, as most things Indians purchase like mobile phones, shirts and the like are made in China. The remark angered the Prime Minister, who launched a scathing counter-attack. In Madhya Pradesh, where he wrapped up his campaign, Prime Minister Modi branded the Congress MP Rahul Gandhi a leader of fools, quote, leader of fools, unquote, or a Murkhon ke Sardar. These are his words, viewers, for Rahul Gandhi. Why? Because he accused Rahul Gandhi of not being aware of even the basic facts that testify to the potency of Make in India. The government claims Make in India is a roaring success, viewers. That over the last 9 years, since the Prime Minister came in and instituted this vision, India has risen very quickly up the manufacturing global sweepstakes, and that our output has risen, creating huge number of jobs and therefore a knock-on effect on the economy. But first, listen to what the Prime Minister said as he went after Rahul Gandhi.
एक महाज्ञानी कांग्रेस के कह रहे थे कि आप सबके पास मेड इन चाइना मोबाइल फोन होता है। अरे मूर्खों के सरदार, किस दुनिया में रहते हैं ये लोग? कांग्रेस के नेताओं को अपने देश की उपलब्धियां न देखने की मानसिक बीमारी हो गई है। पता नहीं विदेश के वो कौन से चश्मे पहने हैं कि उनको देश की स्थिति का पता ही नहीं दिखता है।
As I said, viewers, the Prime Minister was quite ticked off with Rahul Gandhi and therefore proceeded, in fact, in the course of his speech to fact check him, pulling out various statistics to show that, in fact, Rahul Gandhi was wrong. But Rahul Gandhi, what he was trying to say was that the BJP hasn't lived up to its promises, and he's been saying this, viewers, over a period of time, has not been able to create employment in the country through Make in India, because Make in India is essentially a flop show. That's what he's been saying, challenging the BJP's narrative that it has done a lot to broad-based manufacturing in India, do much more than the UPA did when it was in power for 10 years preceding the NDA 2.0. Listen in to what Rahul Gandhi had said.
आप मोबाइल फोन के पीछे देखो, शर्ट के पीछे देखो, जूते के नीचे देखो, मेड इन चाइना दिखेगा। हमारी सरकार आने के बाद यहां जो लाखों करोड़ों युवा हैं, वो बेरोजगार ना रहें, वो फैक्ट्रियों में काम करें, और ऐसा एक दिन आए जब चाइना में कोई युवा हो, वो अपना मोबाइल फोन निकाले, उसके पीछे देखे, उसके पीछे लिखा हो मेड इन मध्य प्रदेश।
Viewers, as the Prime Minister's remarks began to gain traction on social media and elsewhere, the BJP and some in government weighed in to supply facts and figures to disprove Rahul Gandhi. Amitabh Kant, the lead G20 Sherpa, listed statistics to prove that India's mobile production output was not fueled by Chinese manufacturing. In fact, was 100% dependent on Atmanirbharta or self-sufficiency. This is what he said, viewers, and let me just run you through his point of view. He said in 2023, nearly 100% of mobiles sold in India were made in India, almost 10%. Again, he said in 2023, over 270 million handsets produced in India alone. 214 in 2014, 81% of India's handset demand was met via Chinese imports. That's what he said. Just compare the two. He said, in fact, we could have put this graphic in a comparison for you to have made life easier, viewers, but still, you get the sense. Just remember the top line figures. This is what Amitabh Kant says. In 2023, nearly 100% of mobiles sold in India were made in India, according to him. Again, in the same year, 2023, this year, 270 million handsets produced in India. In 2014, 81% of India's handset demand was met via Chinese imports. That's what he's saying. India crossed 2 billion mobile handset production in these last few years, 2014 to 2022. And almost 20% of mobile handsets produced in India are exported. So not only are we meeting domestic demand, but we are also being able to export in huge numbers. That's what Amitabh Kant and others in government and in the BJP who've been tweeting to bolster the Prime Minister's point of view have been putting out. The government's, however, let's put this all in perspective. The government's placing of facts on the table only made the Congress more determined to defend Rahul Gandhi's take. Here is what some Congress leaders said in defense of Rahul Gandhi.
उन्होंने जनता को गाली दी, हमारे नेता को उन्होंने गाली दी और मोदी जी को इतना अहंकार हो गया कि अपने सामने किसी को कुछ समझते नहीं और ये अहंकार रावण का नहीं रहा तो मोदी का ही अहंकार कहाँ टिकेगा।
चुनाव की पहले ही प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी चुनाव की नतीजा आजमा ले चुके हैं, इसलिए बौखलाए हुए देश की प्रधानमंत्री जी की जुबान से भद्दे भाषा निकलने लगी।
Coming from the Jutoka Sardar, it shows the arrogance of Mr. Modi to divert from the real issues and goes personal against the political leadership. He doesn't want to recognize the fact that Chinese goods are flooding in Indian market.
While the numbers are indisputable, it is also a fact that India's mobile production facilities have been very successful in assembling parts imported from different countries, including China, to churn out mobile phones for various brands at extremely competitive prices. Manufacturing in the strictest sense of the term, that is production on Indian soil of every mobile phone component, has not quite taken off yet, viewers. So to suggest that we have achieved 100% Atmanirbharta might be stretching a good point too far. In fact, India has a lot of catching up to do with China. Though to be fair to India, even China imports mobile phone parts. I think there are 0 countries in the world that are totally self-sufficient in producing mobile phones. Some technology is always procured from another country. And that is sometimes also known as the logic, viewers, of outsourcing, because certain components are made cheaper in other countries, and the logic of business means that if you don't import these parts, your product might be too expensive, because to manufacture it on Indian soil or on any indigenous place would mean more expense. And I'll give you an example. But despite all of this, the Chinese have been able to produce most mobile phone components on its own soil. Another area where India lags far behind China is that it lacks a semiconductor wafer fabrication unit or fab. In fact, to build a fab that produces a 3 nanometer chip or wafer would cost approximately $23 billion by some estimates. To put that number into perspective, we need to remember that India attracted $49 billion in total foreign direct investment in 2022. So you can imagine, viewers, in total we attract about, let's say, $50 billion. But the cost of establishing a fab, a unit that will manufacture a chip that really makes the phone most viable, is, in a sense, about $23 billion. So almost half the amount of annual direct foreign investment will go into making just one plant or to setting up a a fab. Nonetheless, India is quickly closing the gap with China. Consider these astounding statistics, viewers. And these are statistics to be proud of. Let's have a look. India is the second biggest mobile phone producing country, albeit phones are assembled. Doesn't matter. 200 plus mobile manufacturing units as compared to just 2 in 2014. A 23% annual growth rate of mobile production from 2014 to 2022. India produced 30 crore units of mobile phones in FY 2021-2022, and the export stands at 68,000 crores in 2022-23 versus near zero in 2014-2016, viewers. So you can see that there has been growth. India is definitely connected to producing more and more of these mobile phones. But it's a moot point whether we're making all the components and therefore we are 100% Atmanirbhar. Nonetheless, viewers, let's open this out for debate. It's a big one, it's an interesting one, and it is a significant one tonight. And it's brought to us by Motorola.
Hello, Moto.
Let's go across straight to our panel tonight. And we have very interesting guests, including Amitabh Kant, who is, of course, the lead G20 Sherpa. And we've, of course, been referring to him because he put out a bunch of statistics. So let me just very quickly first start out with people who are perhaps taking a more skeptical view of the growth story today. Let me begin from the opposition side. Tehseen Poonawalla joins us for a little bit of perspective on this. Tehseen Poonawalla, you happen to be related to, of course, Rahul Gandhi, and you know that the Prime Minister called him a Murkhon ka Sardar. Now, without going into, the exact translations, etc., and, semantics, let's stick to the reasons why he did so. He said that Rahul Gandhi doesn't know his facts. He doesn't realize that India has so far upped the game when it comes to producing mobile phones. In fact, we have become a net exporter. Why is Rahul Gandhi militantly opposed, as the Prime Minister says, to India's rise? Why does he doubt it constantly at every platform? The BJP is asking. Would you like to respond?
Good evening, Rahul. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I don't like the terminology that the Honorable Prime Minister used, or somebody who uses fekuo ka shahinsha for him. We should stay away from such language for people who are on high posts. But the fact of the matter is the CMIE data shows that unemployment has crossed 10%, the highest in over 2 years. It was obviously the highest in the last 5 decades. It's shown that rural unemployment is at 10.8%. Under Manrega last month, job demand has gone up. Are looking for jobs have come in. The government's own record shows that the labor participation in manufacturing has fallen down to pre-COVID levels. Labor participation in agriculture has gone up, and that is not good for news for an economy, Rahul. It also shows that manufacturing, this is the RBI data, is not up to pre-COVID levels even now. Rahul, I'm going to leave your viewers with 4 simple questions to answer. Why does every single Indian worth about 70 to 80 crores, I'm not talking in assets, who's a turnover of about 80 to 90 crores, is buying a house in Dubai or Singapore? Why have the highest number of Indians given up their passports in the last 1 year? Why is every HNI hedging his bets? The fact of the matter is, the government's policies are meant for crony capitalists. The government has not worked with industry. The fact of the matter is, there is a report, and Anand will bear testimony to that India can import the same things that we are getting in from China, from 3 other countries at lower prices. The government hasn't done it. In fact, our trade deficit with China has cost $100 billion US, the highest ever. Manmohan Singh had left it at $36 billion. That is the failure of this government. Just ask all your viewers who are viewing this show, why they not even today speaking on WhatsApp, but they speak on Signal and Telegram, and why do they all have houses in Dubai and Singapore? That will answer your question. The Prime Minister can butter any single argument he wants. His economy has failed totally.
Well, on your first point, Tehseen Poonawalla, the answer is very simple. Billionaires all over the world actually own houses in different geographies. They also invest
That's
in
not
different,
true.
excuse me, they also invest in different geographies. You know that, for example, Apple doesn't manufacture much, if you will recall, in America. It goes out of America to manufacture. In fact, it's increasingly looking at India. I think one should also recognize the fact that Indian manufacturers, industrialists think that they can compete internationally. And that's what makes them confident. So breaking into new markets. Mahindra has been able to capture a significant share of the automotive market in Africa, in parts of southwestern Europe. So we should recognize these things. India is getting much
May I
more
answer that
competitive.
question?
Look at ISRO,
May I
for
answer that
example.
question?
ISRO itself
answer
is
that
challenging the dominance of NASA, launching more and more satellites at cheaper costs, etc., and doing a fantastic job. Some of its satellites are also launched from foreign geographies, by the way. But one second, let's not get bogged down here. Let's open it up. One second. I don't want to get into a tutu meme. I was just answering. No. Why do you want to keep?
Both Mahindra, Tata and Airtel were in African markets way before the Honorable Prime Minister took charge. In
It
fact, I
doesn't
go to
matter.
Tanzania
The
regularly.
point is
So
about
don't say the
competing
Prime
globally.
Minister's
I'm not
policy.
talking about whether they were
Are
here
not
because of
competing globally then?
Manmohan Singh or they are there because
Are
of
they not
Modi. I'm not
competing?
saying that. I'm
Let's
just
talk
saying
on data.
that we
10%
should.
unemployment
Arey
is a
bhaiya,
growth
why do
cause.
you shout so much? Calm down. Relax. I'm not
Sir, 10%
making this
unemployment.
about
Let's focus on that.
political sides here. I'm just generally
But I
referring
am.
to what you were saying. Look, Manmohan was not around when Apple started making its factories in China also. Okay, so let's not all get silly
And he
about
was
this.
around when they
Let's
started
raise the
China.
level of the debate. You were making a moot point about why is Indian, manufacturing or manufacturers or the great industrialists sort of flying out of this country and setting up bases because they can. Whether it was because of Manmohan or whether Modi, it
Because
doesn't matter.
ED
Because they
is
can.
tax
And we should be
terrorism and
happy
ED.
that they can. One second.
Because of terrorism and ED. Mark my
Okay,
words.
terrorism,
You can butter this
everything
up.
is terrorism.
Tax
Okay.
terrorism. Tax
Well-
terrorism and ED.
Well, okay.
That's the.
Then why doesn't Rahul Gandhi start a political party in the Gulf? Because he's terrorized by the ED, isn't it? And most of your Congress leaders, they should start
Come
a
on,
chapter.
Rahul, I
I mean,
expect
come on, don't be
better
silly.
intellect from you.
So let's
I
open
expect
this
better
up. No,
intellect from
please. This. You're actually reducing this debate to silly
No, you
asides,
question on
and I don't
answering.
want to get into
Because
this.
of tax terrorism. You don't want to answer the elephant in the room. That's your problem.
Okay.
Tax
So you have to
terrorism
make
is
up your
taking
mind.
industry
The
down.
Congress party says that this government gives massive breaks to industrialists, tax breaks.
To
That's their
its
greatest.
favorites.
So look, I mean,
To
why are you
its
speaking over
favorites.
me? Okay. Tehseen, it's not going to
Because
work
you-
like this, my dear friend. Either you finish what you have to
Because-
say, list all your grouses, allow me to
I have
rebut
listed
you on
my
facts,
grouses,
and then you can respond.
those
But you
are not
can't keep
facts.
speaking over me, can you?
You can't take selectively out of my book.
I'm not taking selectively. You're saying
Yes.
tax terrorism. On the other hand, your own party leader comes out and says, oh, this government only works for the richy riches,
For the cronies.
for the cronies. Make up your mind. Those
Yes.
cronies are creating jobs, isn't it? One second. Dr. Ranganathan, yeah, you've been raising your hand. Please come in. Yeah.
Yes, can I, first of all, good evening, Rahul. Can I request Tehseen to stop interrupting? And if he has Hotstar on his app, can he please watch the semi-final in the interim? This is.
Can I please ask you to stop to make intellectual points and not make personal points? Thank you, my friend.
Okay.
On Tehseen, you've woken up from the wrong side of the bed today, it seems. No, Rahul, can I please continue?
No.
Look, there are two issues here, and both are very important, and both need to be discussed. Number one, three things are constant in life: death, taxes, and Rahul Gandhi lying through his teeth. I have said this before and I repeat, making sense of him is as easy as consuming rasam with chopsticks. Here are the facts, gleaned in no small measure from what Mr. Khan said in the morning. In the 10 months of this year, 99.2% of the mobiles that have been sold in India were either made or assembled in India. Back during the UPA, in fact, in 2014, 80% of India's mobile phone demand was met by China and Chinese imports. In 2023, India stands as the second largest mobile manufacturer in the world. This year itself, it has produced more than 310 million mobile handsets. A quarter of them are being exported. Importantly, Indian value addition in mobiles has increased to up to 25% depending upon the model and complexity. Since Modi took over, the electronics production has increased by threefold to more than $100 billion, and exports have increased fourfold to $25 billion. If these are not figures that would make any Indian proud, no figures could. Number two, now this is also important, away from mobiles, there is also the other side. That must be brought out to light because we all want the best for our economy and for our country. Make in India target was 25% of the GDP by 2022 in manufacturing. It is 15% today. 100 million manufacturing jobs were promised by Mr. Modi. They haven't materialized. Share of manufacturing in workforce has declined from 12.6% to 11.6% in the last 10 years. According to CEDA, half of manufacturing jobs have been lost in the last 5 years, possibly because of COVID. But you see, let me give you a small example. In the wake of Pulwama, where Pakistan killed our Jawans, the India-Pakistan trade came down to zero. But in the wake of Galwan, where China killed our Jawan, the India-China trade has been the highest ever. It has crossed $100 billion for 2 years running, and this year it might surpass $130 billion. Worse, our exports to China have declined by 36% compared to last year. But Chinese imports have risen. Our deficit is now a staggering $80 billion. Our trade deficit with China was $1.5 billion in 2004. It climbed to $37 billion in 2014. It has doubled during the Modi regime. Where is the promised white paper on decoupling from China and Atmanirbhar Bharta? How many Indian companies and multinationals have we coerced away from China in the last 3 years? Recent research by government-aided RIS has found that a mere 327 products such as mobile phones, telecom equipment, cameras, solar panels, ACs and penicillin account for 3/4 of Chinese imports. And that for 82% of our total imports from China, it was not the most competitive producer. This implies we can decouple from China by promoting domestic manufacturing and also diversifying our import basket. Sure, it won't happen overnight, of course, but it's been 3 years. Surely we could have taken steps, but here we are going in the other direction. Decoupling will allow us to flex our muscles in the defense front as well. Right now, China doesn't care because we aren't hurting them economically. But here is the tragedy. Our opposition sides with the center on this. They don't want to hurt China. And so there is no pressure to rethink our economic dependence on China. A lesson not given, Rahul, is a lesson not learned. And we aren't learning our lessons.
Well, that's a valid point. But remember, viewers, that over the last few years, we are producing a lot more. And not everything that we produce or we manufacture, like for example, just a small example of mobile phones. If you're producing more, you're going to also import some of those components which you don't manufacture right now. Remember, the PLI scheme is only 5 years old, viewers. It's going to take time before which incentives that are handed out to localize production of those components kicks in. So it's going to take time. Now, you're producing more, that means you've got more plants. I'm talking very narrowly in the mobile manufacturing sector context, viewers. You've got more plants putting together mobiles and therefore selling them in the Indian market. Therefore, you will obviously source more of those original equipments or parts. And that's why you suddenly see the growth of that number which you were wanting to taper off with China expanding. So you have to come to a place before which you can make that shift. Now, let's put these questions to Amitabh Kant. He is here with us. We must ask him all these things because Dr. Ranganathan has some valid points to make. Yes, we are looking to create many more jobs. We've fallen short. In fact, let me say also, Dr. Ranganathan, that there was a target that was very volubly talked about in NDA 1 or 1.0 under Mr. Modi between 2014 and, of course, 2019. But now that target has been rescinded to the dustbin of history, really. So we don't have that target. No one talks about that annual creation of 2 crore jobs and 10 crores over 5 years. So that is something that the BJP spokesperson will also have to answer. But let's go back to Mr. Kant. Mr. Kant, you heard what Rahul Gandhi says. He says nothing in India is being made. It's all a jumla. Mr. Tehseen Poonawala here is taking exception to the fact that the Prime Minister made a statement called Rahul Gandhi Murkhon ka Sardar. And he said that's very, very impolitic. Of course, he forgets that Rahul Gandhi called the Prime Minister Chor. And many other leaders in the Congress continuously attack Mr. Modi personally. But fine, let's for a moment set aside that semantic, that sort of petty issue debate. Let's go into the main thing. So how do you respond to this, that Make in India is a jumla, Mr. Kant?
Well, Rahul, I don't want to get into the political side of this, but let me just say that the mobile phone story is a phenomenal story of India of transformation from import dependency to 100% Atmanirbharta and now export-led growth within a very short period of 2014 to 2023. So if you look at it in 2014, we were importing 81% of the total mobile phones in India. And since then, now we have over the last few years actually not only we are doing 100% of the domestic demand is being met from made in India by mobiles made in India, but we are exporting 25% of the mobiles manufactured in India during 2023. We have exported 25% of the mobiles manufactured to European Union, US, Japan, and other parts of the developed Asia. So actually, this is a phenomenal story of mobile manufacturing, one sector to have transformed from massive import dependency in 2014 to 100% Atmanirbharta and now export-led growth. Very short period of 9 years.
Let me ask you.
And many of you would recall that before 2014, India's mobile manufacturing actually had been decimated after the closure of Nokia factory. So this is a great, great story of unprecedented growth in production, of totally a made in India story,
but
and
let me
now a
ask you.
story of great exports.
You constantly refer to this term 100% Atmanirbharta, but honestly, Mr. Kant, India is still not manufacturing a large number of components that go into making a mobile phone on Indian soil. We have to import these components. So, in a sense, India has gone into mobile production, but its production is based on assembling components, isn't it? So, how can we then claim that we are 100% Atmanirbhar, Mr. Kant?
Anybody who says this has no understanding or no comprehension of how global value chains work or how electronic goods are manufactured. In every single advanced sector or sunrise sectors like mobile or automobile, there has to be imports. Those are goods which are imported because there are over thousands of components which come in from different parts of the world. They are put together, value addition is done, and then it's exported or it's used in the domestic market. That's how China does. That's how India does. That's how Vietnam does. It's the same process applied across the board. There's nothing different about India. And over a period of time, what has happened is that a number of input manufacturers have started manufacturing in India, and you will see this value addition only growing by leaps and bounds in India. So there is nothing wrong in doing this.
Okay, so let me open this up. Stay on with us, Mr. Kant. Let me open this up. Now, let me ask this question of the analyst, Mr. Kurian. Mr. Kurian, look, you know, Tehseen Poonawalla is here, Dr. Ranganathan is here. Dr. Ranganathan made a point that, you know, we haven't got and hit those targets. Tehseen, of course, says that nothing is happening. So we've got to reconcile ourselves to a position somewhere in the middle. A start is being made. We are getting there. The point is, and just to pick up from what Tehseen said, many industries didn't want to set up shop in India, perhaps found conditions abroad favorable because, let's face it, the country's labor laws are archaic and the workforce isn't very skilled. Twofold problem. The moment the government wants to bring reforms in the labor sector, and it has instituted some, there are people who land up at the borders and block roads. We tried to do it with agriculture and wanted to institute a second green revolution, but look what happened. And guess who ate pizza with the farmers? It was half the Congress leadership, despite promising reforms in their own manifestos. So I want to ask you, Mr. Kurian, are we actually willing to let go of our politics and prioritize manufacturing?
Well, Rahul, a very good evening to you and to my co-panelists here on the show and to your audience. Give me 90 seconds of uninterrupted time to keep my point of view. Let me begin by saying that Rahul Gandhi has a modern, new vision and a capable leadership for India. He has to make it a self-manufacturing hub, and he also has spoken in the past about employment generation and growth-based, generation in the country, and so that which is a need of the hour. Having said that, let me also put it across that the falling rupee has given the Western countries, and Modi has only made it possible for the Western countries to make a loot in India, because they're getting materials outside materials into India, and manufacturing has been done in India, be it the semiconductors, all the components. So it is nothing but Western countries are benefiting from this. We all need to understand about the biggest promise that Bharatiya Janata Party
the
made.
biggest problem. One second, Mr. Kurian. Just one second. A fact check there. International companies are upset. You remember Mr. Trump, President Trump? He has a problem with India's duty landscape. We have the highest duties on imported goods. We are actually creating an enabling environment. Some people call it import substitution, where we are saying that, look, make in India here, we will give you incentives under the PLI, but we will raise the costs by imposing punishing tariffs for imported stuff. You know this, Mr. Kurian. Why are you misleading the country tonight?
But it's a fact for the Western countries. It has become a loot, and the government of India has given them
I think you've got caught up in your own rhetoric, sir. No, come on. This is not a jalebi. We are not making a jalebi.
Bharatiya Janata Party has
we are not making a jalebi. We all want barfi.
About the economic prosperity of each and everyone.
Every country has a problem with India's sorry, sir, tariff structure. The WTO. Dr. Ranganathan wants to come in. Yes. I don't know what we are talking about here. Yes.
Rahul, you hit the nail on the head, because when you talked about the farm laws and farm reforms that were promised by Rahul Gandhi and Congress in its manifesto, and when Modi realized it, Rahul suddenly took a U-turn and started calling them black laws. It is a fact. Let me give you the extent of shackling of our business enterprise by the Indian state, and Dr. Kant is here. He would agree with me, because I am talking only data. It is exemplified by the recent explosive report by Gautam Chikkarmane and Rishi Agarwal. Their work honestly reads like a horror story, except that it is much worse. It is not a story, it is real. Let me give you a very small glimpse, just 30 seconds. An average MSME employing around 150 people faces up to 900 compliances that cost them 18 lakhs a year at an aggregate. There are 1,536 laws that govern businesses, 678 union laws by the parliament, and 858 state laws enacted by the assembly. Under these laws lies a web of 69,233 compliances, 25,537 at the union level, 43,696 at the state level. These compliances need to be communicated to the governments through 6,618 annual filings, 2,282 at the union level, 4,336 at the level of states. Apart from the 1,536 laws and 69,233 compliances governing doing business in India, entrepreneurs need to make 6,618 filings every year. This is the state of somebody doing a business.
This is the state.
This is the state. Now the question is, Congress supports this government in not bringing the reforms that could change all
this.
Well,
let me tell you. When in the budget, one second, in the budget, please, in the budget, when it was announced that some of these massive compliances are going to be gotten rid of, swept off the books, and I want to bring in Siddharth Yadav of the Bharatiya Janata Party on this, you had many people in the opposition saying that you're playing into the hands of cronies, which is a word I'm not using, Mr. Tehseen Poonawala has used on this show. If you want to bring reforms in agriculture, which would have doubled agricultural incomes, and I'm saying doubled conservatively, viewers.
Yes.
You went and torpedoed it, and the government crumbled. And now there is talk that, we might let states do it their way, this, that. The states will never do it, viewers. We are choking here in Delhi, for example, because of that inequity. Anyhow, let me bring in the BJP spokesperson, hasn't had a word. Mr. Yadav, there are two sets of problems here. Number one, some of the targets that were announced haven't been met, so Make in India is lagging behind its own targets, the government's own targets. Number one, why? Number two, are we totally Atmanirbhar when the situation is the way it is when it comes to mobile phone manufacturing, since the Prime Minister talked about it, when we are importing components and we don't even have a FAB plant, a unit in this country?
Rahul, I think I've been the most patient on this debate tonight, and I'm speaking after 30 minutes, so I'll be giving.
Yeah, okay. Let me listen. Mr. Yadav, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I can't hear you. Yeah.
Rahul, first, I would like to respond on the mobile manufacturing and what Rahul Gandhi said and how it is playing out today. I feel when Rahul Gandhi sometimes comes out and says something, especially on the development of this country, he must be going back and thinking that he should stick back to his own divisive casteist allegations that he always makes, because if he takes this road, then he has to take it a long way, because the track that India has been following and the development that has happened in this sector is beyond his imagination. Just for the context, Rahul, when India in the UPA left India in 2014, when they were in power, we were manufacturing 20,000 crore rupees worth of mobile phones. Today we are manufacturing 3.5 lakh crores of mobile phones in the year. We are the second largest manufacturer. We just manufactured 2 billion mobile phones last year. This is beyond imagination for Rahul Gandhi. He can't even think how this is happening. Can India ever do it? He was the one who made fun of Make in India. He was the one who was making fun of the logo. But is it strictly Make in India, Mr. Yadav? Is it strictly Make in India? Assembling in India is not exactly making in India. Let's be honest about it. If you want to decrease your dependency on China, you have to start manufacturing in India. Rahul.
Dr. Ranganathan has shown you some statistics. In fact, as our production has grown, so are our imports from China.
I'll respond to that.
That should have been decoupled by now.
I'll respond to that.
3 years have come and gone.
Absolutely. I'll respond to what Mr. Ranganathan was also saying. Rahul, you must understand, I think Mr. Kant is an expert here and he could throw more light on this. The entire electronics and this entire industry is based a lot on supply chains. We, for a lot of years after our independence, were nowhere in the supply chain. It is not just Make in India that is making this happen. It is a lot of schemes that our government has introduced for the 9 years, which is actually making this happen. And for that, we started assembling in India. We are manufacturing in India. We are trying to do everything. We are also entering the semiconductors chip area. Because we were nowhere. Can you imagine, Rahul? We were nowhere. We were the smallest manufacturer in so many things. We were not even imagining to manufacture something. And today, if we are trying to take that leap forward through the schemes of our government, Rahul Gandhi wants to come out and tutor us on what Make in India is. He was the one who was making fun of it. Let me add some statistics here.
Under the PLI scheme.
And I'll respond.
No, 1 second. Let's get into numbers because I want to check you on that. 1 second, sir. Let's just get into some numbers.
Yes.
Announced 5 years ago, the PLI scheme. Now let's look at the performance. The industry that has shown the most enthusiasm for the scheme is smartphone manufacturing. Okay, viewers, companies like Micromax, Samsung and Foxconn, which makes phones for Apple, can get up to 6% of their incremental sales income through the PLI program. And with the scheme, mobile phone exports have jumped from $300 million in FY 2018 to an astounding $11 billion in FY 2023. So in a matter of, you do the math on it, from 300 million to 11 billion. That's a huge leap, 30-40% or 300% rather, 300% jump. Now viewers, that would have created a lot of jobs. We don't have the exact numbers here, but it's my fault, I should have pulled them out. And while India imported mobile phones worth 3.6 billion in FY 2018, it dropped to 1.6 billion in FY 23. So these are all knock-up kits. You basically import the full mobile and you basically sell it here. That has dropped more than halved, viewers, 60% drop in those imports. And this is the success of the PLI scheme. So we can't doubt that success. 1 second. G20 Sherpa is still with us. Mr. Kant, final one to you. Look, when we don't have the key input, which is to make
Rahul,
the semi...
I just want to add 30 more seconds if you can allow me.
Yeah, 1 second, Mr. Yadav. Let me, as you said, let's go to the expert. Just 1 second, 30 seconds. Mr. Kant, just want to ask you, we don't have even one FAB unit in the country. Now, if we don't have an FIB unit, which means that we cannot actually manufacture the most vital component that goes into a mobile phone. We have a lot of, therefore, catching up to do with China and perhaps importing from Taiwan or other countries that chip. Then how can we say that India is 100% self-sufficient in this particular area? I'm pinning you down, Mr. Kant.
So, a lot of work around semiconductor chips has now been done. And the PLI for that has been rolled out. You've seen a lot of designing taking place in India, and now you see Micron coming in and a number of other manufacturers getting in, and that process is on. And in the next few years, India will become a very major manufacturer of semiconductor and chips in India. That process is on now. That should have been done a couple of decades back. It's not happened, but we are in very much advanced towards that. That's one of the sunrise areas where we are focused on. So what India has done is the phased manufacturing program. India has done the production linked incentive program, which has led to transformation in many of these areas like mobile manufacturing, like electric vehicle manufacturing, like wafer manufacturing, and I think this will soon happen in the chip sector.
It will soon happen in the chip sector. It can only happen when you incentivize domestic production. I want to ask fundamental question, Tehseen Poonawalla and Dr. Ranganathan. Here is a clangor. Tehseen Poonawalla, just recently the government decided that it would ban the import of stuff that goes into making laptops. And just about everyone cried foul, said Indira Gandhi years are back, import substitution is back, command economy is back, we are done for. Did you agree with that move? Do you support it?
I think it was not.
It was a ridiculous move because the government.
One second. It's Tehseen is responding first. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Ridiculous move, you say. Okay.
But I want to add a point which is very important to fact check Dr. Ranganathan. But please allow me that point. It was a ridiculous move because, like everything, this government headline managed and did not think about the drawback of this silly decision, which is why the next day they had to take it back. But I just want to fact check Dr. Ranganathan on one point. India's share of manufacturing in GDP under the greatest Prime Minister India has had, Dr. Manmohan Singh, was 17.19%. It's down to 13.32% now. Like I said, India's participation, the labor force participation in manufacturing is down to 1992 levels, which is a worrying sign for India because India's labor participation in the agricultural sector is above 49% with 1 crore people looking for Manrega jobs, which is a sign of desperation. Not one panelist of yours.
Well, if you're not going to allow for reforms and you're not going to allow for the creation of doubling of agriculture, hang on, that's going to obviously be the problem. Reforms cannot, you can't selectively champion reforms and then criticize when the government doesn't or shelves the reform. Anyhow, Dr. Ranganathan wants to come in. Okay, you made your point. Dr. Ranganathan, yes.
Thank you, Tehseen. I don't think you fact-checked me because I wasn't wrong on my facts. I myself said that while the target was 25% of GDP for manufacturing, it is barely 15%. So I wasn't wrong there. No, but Rahul, we have to go beyond what Congress demands and expects and on the ground what it feels like. We really have to because they have agenda. I'm sorry to say Tehseen is my brother, but he's representing Congress in one way or the other. I look at the solid numbers that are staring in front of me, and there are two. Let me simplify it for you. Two numbers I'll give you. One, the electronics industry, the value has increased threefold to $100 billion in the last 10 years. It's a grand success.
Yes.
At the same time, I want the BJP representative to say that when Mr. Modi promised 100 million manufacturing jobs, how many manufacturing jobs has Make in India materialized? Give me the number. Please give me just the number.
Mr. Yadav, quick one.
No, definitely. I think I'll respond to what Mr. Ranganathan was saying in the earlier time also and definitely for this data also. Mr. Ranganathan was mentioning the compliances that the startups and MSMEs have to comply to do business in this country. But I think he'll definitely appreciate that the ease of doing business the stats for our country is jumping up to 63rd position is not just anything. 39,000 compliances have been reduced in the past 9 years. 39,000. 6,400 legal compliances have been reduced. So how the country and how 100 unicorns are have come up in our country, how in tier 2, tier 3 cities young startups are coming in, and how business is booming is not just out of the out of the air. It is through the schemes of the government, and that is why it is happening. Secondly, when it comes down to the jobs that Mr. Ranganathan is saying, from 2014 to 2019, 6.24 crore jobs were created in the digital economy sector. That is 10 lakh jobs a month. More than a crore jobs in a year. 1.21 crore jobs were created in the PM Rozgar Prabodhan Yojana, and lot more. We are one of the countries which has performed the best post-COVID. The best. For the challenges that our country faces, in terms of population, in terms of other factors.
Look, we've touched upon an important issue tonight, and at least we've done it with some amount of equanimity and calmness. I think more such debates are required. Viewers, we'll come back to this topic in the next few days because this is not going to go out of the window. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I'm going to take a very short break. Up next, viewers, the siege at Al-Shifa Hospital, where evidence has emerged of Hamas using patients as human shields. Will the wokes protest? Shifa reality? That's the big question coming up. Don't go away.
Hello, Moto.
Co-powered by AQI has deteriorated after Diwali, but remember the AQI was already in the severe category at least 2 to 3 days ago, and today as well the AQI is still hovering within the very poor to poor category, but yet it is still very difficult for people to breathe out here. Remember the manner in which the Supreme Court orders of not bursting any sort of crackers was flouted yesterday. There were several cases that were seen out here in the national capital where this order of the Supreme Court of not bursting any sort of cracker was definitely flouted. In fact, the fire department itself had called more than 100 calls till 10 p.m. itself. So it actually shows that the people of the national capital, in fact, the majority of the people of the national capital were actually not bursting crackers, but yes, there was a significant number who were seen flouting these norms and bursting crackers, because of which we are seeing that the AQI has yet again deteriorated out here in the national capital and is yet again in the very poor category. Now today, the prediction from the IMD is that once the sun is out, the wind speeds are likely to pick up and these pollutants would yet again be washed away. And that is the only silver lining for the people out here in the national capital. But remember, over the next few days as well, the AQI is likely to remain in the poor to very poor category, and in fact is likely to deteriorate yet again in the severe category as well because of the wind directions. Now what remains to be seen is to what new plans can the Delhi government and the Delhi administration make sure that they initially make, and make sure that is implemented on the ground to the T, so that some sort of immediate relief can be provided to the people out here in the national capital who have been suffering from this deteriorating air quality for at least the last 10 days. Currently, I am reporting from the pollution hotspot out here in the national capital, that is the Anand Vihar bus terminal, and if I could just show you in the visuals around here, the visibility is not as bad as it was expected. The AQI out here in the national capital remains to be in the very poor category, although the measures of GRAP 4 has been implemented, but yes, the manner in which the order of the Supreme Court of not bursting crackers was flouted by several people out here in the national capital, that has made sure that the AQI deteriorates yet again. But if you compare the AQI that is today, the very next day post Diwali with the yesteryears, you can actually see that the AQI is not as bad as it was expected, and in fact it has somewhere or the other been better than what it was last year at this time around. Also, what we have seen that yes, there were several people who had flouted the norms and had gone ahead and busted crackers through the night on the day of Diwali. But yes, today the AQI has definitely deteriorated, but it is not as bad as it can be seen. On the other hand, we have seen a lot of politics that has already started to happen in this entire matter. The opposition leaders are already coming on record and putting blame on the BJP leaders because they were the people who instigated people to go ahead and burst these crackers. So yes, the political blame game has already started. But if you speak about the AQI has definitely deteriorated post-Diwali, but it is not as bad as it was over the last many years, right after the day of Diwali. Currently, I am reporting from Akshardham Temple, where I could just show you in the visuals around here that yet again today a cloud of smog has yet again engulfed the national capital. Remember, over the weekend we saw that there were spells of rain, which meant that the AQI in the national capital had improved significantly. But post Diwali, yet again we are seeing that the AQI in the national capital has yet again deteriorated. The main reason behind this is being said to be the manner in which the norms were flouted by the residents of the national capital even after the orders of the Supreme Court, which meant that there was a blanket ban on bursting of any sort of crackers. That was flouted significantly out here in the national capital, and that is the reason why we are seeing that the AQI out here has yet again deteriorated. Over the next few days, the IMD predicts that the AQI might improve due to the wind conditions, but if you look at the longer run over the next 1 week, the AQI is yet again going to get back into the severe category, which means that it is yet again going to be a troublesome time for the people out here in the national capital region, where yet again they would be forced to breathe in the toxic air. Now what remains to be seen is to what new arrangements or schemes can be made by the government to make sure that the AQI remains under breathable levels, because over the past 1 week we have seen that the AQI had deteriorated, which meant that there were a lot of health issues that people of the national capital were actually facing. So the next 1 week is going to be very, very important, especially from the point of view of the Delhi government and the Delhi administration, to make sure that schemes are made and implemented in such a way that the AQI remains under control and it does not become hazardous for the people out here in the national capital.
जैसा दिल्ली सरकार ने कहा था कि फायर क्रैकर्स बर्न नहीं करने, लेकिन उस हिसाब से फायर क्रैकर्स बहुत ज़्यादा जलाए गए हैं दिल्ली में। जहाँ मैं रहता हूँ वहाँ भी मेरे को बहुत देखने को मिला ये, तो मैं परेशान होकर रात को सो नहीं पाया, फिर सुबह साइकिलिंग करने निकल गया। जब से ये न्यूज़ आई थी पराली जल रही है, तो तब से मैं निकलता हूँ फील करने के लिए कि क्या वेदर में चेंज हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है, बट हुआ है चेंज।
ये मतलब पोल्यूशन का ही है ज़्यादा, तो यहीं से तो बाकी तो सब बढ़िया है। ऐसा मास्क वगैरह भी नहीं लेके आए हम, उधर क्या सब कुछ ठीक है, यहीं पे थोड़ा सा परेशानी है।
Viewers, Israeli troops have entered Gaza's biggest hospital and were searching its rooms and basement, culminating a siege that caused global alarm over the fate of thousands of civilians trapped inside. Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City has become the main target of the ground operation by Israeli forces, who say Hamas fighters located in the beating heart of their operations in a headquarter in tunnels beneath it, which Hamas denies. Now viewers, here are the pictures on your screens. There is the Al-Shifa Hospital, which has become now ground zero in this particular operation. In the middle, viewers, are visuals from Rantisi Hospital, where a tunnel network has been discovered. And then, of course, viewers, you have the Quds Hospital, where RPG attacks have been staged. All of this proves that the Hamas has been using patients, has been using hospital establishments as areas from which to launch counter-offensives against Israel. So military facilities, and that in itself is a war crime, viewers, under the law. But let's open this up. Let's ask some basic and piercing questions, because if this is true, if there is evidence now, and it is pretty conclusive, that the Hamas was using patients as human shields, then viewers, will the vokery stand up and protest this? That's the fundamental question. I want to first begin with Kalev Ben David, journalist live from Tel Aviv. Mr. David, what do you make of these discoveries, and does it for a moment provide you with some sort of a face saver?
Well, it's clear. You could see the reaction of international governments, the United States, Europe, Germany. By the way, countries that have been critical of Israeli policy in the past are supporting Israel's military operation now, are not objecting to it because they have been given evidence that these hospitals are being used as military centers. And by the way, already in Shifa, there were reports this morning of Hamas terrorists firing from those grounds onto Israeli troops. So that battle has already begun. So there is the evidence, the international community. I'm not talking about public opinion, but governments are supporting Israel now in its military operation, including in Shifa.
Palestine journalist and defense analyst Muhammad Najib from Ramallah. Mr. Najib, look, the proof is now there, staring back at us. All these hospitals serve as military bases for Hamas. Now, this is a war crime, really. You can't be hiding behind patients.
The hospitals in Gaza are run by the Palestinian Ministry of Health, not by Hamas militant group, as far as I know. And the Palestinian Ministry of Health called on the United Nations to form an investigative committee to come and check the hospitals. So I can't confirm what the Israelis claimed, either it's true or not. But as far as I know, that the Palestinian displaced from the north got shelters at some hospitals and some UN schools and centers because they cannot find any homes to stay. So the sources were saying that there are 14,000 displaced from northern Gaza, took at Shifa hospitals and RNTC hospitals there. And there are laws for the war. So Israel respected the laws, international laws, humanitarian laws, and that's the issue was. And also, even if that the Israeli believes there is weapons inside those hospitals, doesn't justify to stop the fuel and to
so why?
the oxygen from the babies and the patients.
Okay, so you're saying that even if it's a weapons dump and Hamas is seeking refuge there, don't stop the oil and the other supplies, the electricity, etc. Okay, Dr. Ranganathan, you're an objective observer. What do you make of this? First of all, will the wokes come out now and protest this?
It's not a question of wokes. It's a question of what is right and what is wrong. So I have very quickly 2 points within a minute. Number one, this so-called Palestinian Ministry of Health, for your information, is run by Hamas. It's the same ministry that accused Israel of bombing the Baptist hospital and killing 500 innocents. The truth was that it was a Hamas rocket that accidentally landed at the car park of that hospital. None of those New York Times and all those Vapos and all those so-called wokes ever apologized for this fake news. And number two, I go for the Occam's razor. So here is an Occam's razor. There are three panelists here. One is a Palestinian, one is an Israeli from Tel Aviv, and one is an Indian. Simple question. Is Hamas a terror organization? I say yes. Please ask the other two gentlemen.
Okay. Mr. David.
Of course, Hamas is a terrorist organization. In fact, it's even
Mr.
recognized
Najib,
under law.
Is it a terror organization? Is the Hamas a terror organization?
I asked to join to discuss the issues of the Shifa hospitals. I am not a politician. Sir. I am a political analyst. I am not a politician. You can ask this to Hamas, the Palestinian Authority. So it's not my job as a journalist, and you as an anchor to be independent. It's not to adopt the things. I'm not. They were talking about with the politicians, but I'm not political.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
I don't represent the Palestinian Authority.
Let me ask you this question. Is Israel a terror state, Mr. Najib? Is Israel a terror state?
Sir, we can't say that. I can't define. It's not my job to define who's terror.
At least in your evasiveness, you're being fair. Okay. At least in your evasiveness, you're being fair.
To ask such a question, because
how? I'm asking a simple question. Is Hamas a terror organization? Can't I ask that question?
Jews. They stuffed babies. They beheaded babies.
I'm not a politician to decide who's
terrorist. Tomorrow you say after 9/11 I shouldn't ask the question if Al-Qaeda is a terror
I
organization.
would
This is
say, I repeat what
absurd.
I say. Most Western governments have officially recognized Hamas as a terrorist organization. The United Kingdom, which has been very critical of Israel in many regards, officially recognizes Hamas as a terrorist
Well, let me tell you,
organization.
viewers, it is alarming news that according to the IDF, they found evidence that under this hospital, there was enough evidence to conclude that the hostages were being held for some amount of time and have been removed. Now, viewers, if a hospital is being turned into a hostage station and a terror hub, then viewers, I leave it to you to decide whether it should be a military target or not. I leave it to you.
I just want...
The right stand coming up, viewers.
RP Sanjeev Goenka Group presents CNN News 18 Indian of the Year 2023. And the nominees for the sports category are Sunil Chhetri, Shubman Gill, Nikhat Zareen, Satvik